Hello everyone, welcome back to Dragonfly Engineering. This week we've got a new episode talking about ultrasonic welders, and these basically are machines that weld two pieces of plastic together using ultrasonic mechanical energy. So you hold one piece of plastic stable, you put another piece of plastic on top, usually with a raised bead or a stress rising rim, and then the ultrasonic welder comes down and vibrates the top piece at like 30,000 hertz and pushes it down, and that vibration and pressure causes the plastic to melt and weld the two pieces together. So I'm also going to show you the adventures of eBay, because I bought this secondhand ultrasonic welder off of eBay, and it's always kind of a challenge, or not a challenge, but a crapshoot if whatever you bought on eBay is actually going to work or not. So this is the box. It showed up, FedEx Freight, and let's go ahead and open it and see what we got inside. Hopefully the thing's going to work. So stay tuned and we'll see what happens. So yeah, there's our wad of packaging from the probably scrapper. You know, these people go to companies that fold and they buy up the extra equipment and then they resell it on eBay. So got a whole lot of plastic bag here. So this is the power supply for the ultrasonic welder. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Branson 900M. So let me, if you can see that. All right, I switched over to the GoPro so we could take a look at the ultrasonic welding unit itself. Looks like it was last calibrated May 11th, 1999. So yeah, it's at least 20 years old. And so down here is where the this welding unit mounts onto a table. Here's basically a table mount. I'm gonna have to drill and tap some mounting holes to mount this guy. This thing right here is called the horn, which is basically the block of metal that vibrates, and actually you can see the old imprint of whatever the thing is that someone was. I don't know if the lighting is good. I'll have to switch the lighting around. I'll get back to this, but you can see kind of the outline of the part that was ultrasonically welded for probably, I don't know, decade or so, because you can see an imprint pretty good. Let me get better lighting and we'll get back to that. But then up here is this is the ultrasonic actuating unit, probably piezoelectric, and it creates the ultrasonic energy that is dumped into to the tool here, which then imparts the power and friction onto the plastic part you're welding. And then I would assume this entire thing travels. Looks like air pressure is needed. Yeah, and a few adjustments, down speed for pushing down when the vibration is happening. And don't touch the vibrating horn. It'll probably blow your cells apart in your finger. And I'm sure it hurts. Oh, and then here's a positional encoder. And then looks like it uses a steel strap for maybe counterbalance. And then here's the compressed air input, I think, for the pressure, downward pressure. So Branson 900 series. So yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to actually bolt this guy down to probably the robot table that I have in the molding room. So there it is. Next step is to see if it actually works. All right, let's try it out. Okay, so I got the control unit up on the bench here. I think what I'm going to do is mount that that welder onto the corner of my wooden bench here. I don't want to go through the fuss of drilling and tapping a metal table next door if the thing doesn't work. So I'm just going to C-clamp it onto the corner. But looking at the box of cables, let's pull this stuff out. Here is emergency stop button. Just hacked out in the usual vulture capitalist way. They just go in and just chop stuff out. So there must be an emergency stop, and it was pushed. Yeah, so you hit that if it looks like your hand's about to get crushed. ES6. We'll have to figure out where emergency stop goes. Anyway, so that's emergency stop. This seems to be the main cable. There's just 3 connections. This must be the power connection, which plugs into this guy right here. It's a nice rugged military connector here. Let's see if it's keyed. And another like serial style connector, which not sure what this goes to. There's probably a foot switch that's needed. I did not see a foot switch anywhere, so we will have to see how that works. But I may have to supply my own foot switch. And again, we'll have to look at the downloaded manual because they didn't provide one. And that's that. So, yeah. Okay, so I got the welding unit mounted on the table using a couple of C-clamps here. And this is just a temporary mount. I'm sure having a wooden connection between the base where your welded part is and the actual welder isn't the best because the wood absorbs energy, ultrasonic energy. A few things became more apparent. Let me start the second camera here. So looking at the back control, they did label some connections, and there is an extra power connection where this top unit plugs in. So what I'm going to do is basically, as much as I can tell, connect, hold on. So my neighbor next door is beating on his horizontal bandsaw for some reason with a big hammer. So as soon as I start recording, he's going to start whacking on it again. So let's wait a little bit until he's done. Oh, there he went. Let's see if he does it again. It's probably not a good idea to beat on your horizontal bandsaw with a big steel hammer. But who am I to judge? There he goes again. We'll just wait till he's done pounding on his saw with his hammer. Anyway, or we can get some wide view shots. Yeah. Well, guess what? Looks like this time I lost the gamble with eBay equipment purchasing because this thing does not work. It's been about a week and a half since I last filmed the unveiling of this device. And as I was concerned about, there is no manual or instructions on how to wire up the device, and the people who capitalized or cleaned this device out of a company just cut all the wires and didn't record anything or provide any documentation. So I spent about a week or so scouring the internet for the original manual. Actually finally got it through a Branson sales rep here in the area to find out what the emergency stop and start button cycles needed to be. So when I turned this unit on, it did turn on and said everything was fine, but it flashed emergency stop. And on the back of the unit is a bunch of connectors that are not labeled with emergency stop or, cycle start, which means, the start button to weld. So I had to find and dig up and wire in the emergency stop and the cycle start button. After I got that to work and the instrument was ready to go, the first time I hit the button to tell it to weld, it blew up. And unfortunately, I didn't get that on film. I guess I broke a YouTube rule that you're supposed to record everything, because you never know when it's going to blow up. But fortunately, I did a dramatic reenactment for you so that you can capture all the joys and excitement of eBay equipment purchasing. So take a look at this dramatic reenactment and we'll be right back. Oddly enough, that reenactment was actually pretty accurate to how it went. So this is the kludge that I set up. I basically shorted all the e-stop buttons together, which normally you shouldn't do. You should have an emergency stop, but this is, engineering trials. And then these two wires were for the push button start. And normally a regular instrument would have two push buttons so that your hands don't get underneath the ram and get squished. So anyway, that was the these. I didn't actually have buttons. I just touched the start wires together, and then, as you saw in the reenactment, how it went. And to defense of Branson, Branson is the go-to company for ultrasonic welding, and they're not. I'm not sponsoring them or anything. It's just I've heard that name. So. But this instrument, according to Branson, is more than 30 years old, and I suspect what happened is a capacitor or some discrete component deep inside of the instrument failed. It may have been bad when it was sold to the eBay reseller, or it may have sat on a shelf for 10 years and a capacitor swelled and opened up, or who knows, anyway. But it's dead now. Basically not a complete loss though, and I realized looking at this device that it is actually a fully functional air press. So you can push down. Oh, I got the air cylinder on it right now. Actually, I can hit the button. So I can use this as a automation tool in itself by having a die cutter or any other automation press that the robots would work with. Oh, I think I've got the air off. But yeah, so this press still works, as you saw in the reenactment. The other nice thing is that the horn, this thing right here, actually let me get the GoPro going here. So this is the horn that I'm able to salvage from this eBay disaster. So here we've got a horn, which is a machined solid titanium. And these are actually highly tuned, like a tuning fork. So you can't just basically just copy this shape in titanium with your own machining equipment, because they go through extra steps of tuning this structure to impart the right energy into your welded part. And then the next item up here is called the booster. Let me double check that. Yes, the booster. And this is like a mechanical amplifier of the ultrasonic energy that comes from the converter, which is this guy up here. So the converter converts the electrical 20,000 hertz power into vibrational mechanical energy through piezoelectric crystals. And it's vibrating up and down. And then the booster actually amplifies that energy, that mechanical energy, into the horn. And then the horn is shaped to weld your particular profile, and also has resonance and tuning as well. So this entire setup is an assembly, and according to the Branson sales guy Carlos here in Fremont, California, he said that I can reuse the booster and the horn on a new Branson tool, because these are still active part numbers. This old converter is obsolete because all of this is like 30 years old, but mechanical parts don't really wear out. Apparently the color coding tells you what amplification, booster amplification this booster is rated for. And so yeah, and then this whole thing comes out as a sub-assembly. So you can pull this guy out and then stick a different architecture in for a different part that you're welding. Let me go ahead and stick that in correctly. like so. Yeah. And then the cover goes back on to hold it in place. But yeah, so, spoiler alert, but I went ahead and purchased a new ultrasonic welder direct from Branson. And that's just how the cookie crumbled this time. The eBay failed. And I need an ultrasonic welder, so I don't want to mess around anymore, so I just bought a new one. And the price actually wasn't that bad. But back to recouping the value, this setup here is probably worth half what I paid for this ancient welder. The other thing I can use is basically this entire assembly as a air actuated press or ram, actuated by the automation equipment or the KUKA robot. And it's got a nice air cylinder up here. It's got the pneumatic valve with all the wiring, return air cylinder, all of this. These circuit boards up here I'll probably gut or pull out and then have the robot control this valve, which controls the air cylinder, pressing up and down. But the mechanism is nice too. This is cast aluminum probably on a nice vertical column, and the controlling of the height of this assembly is interesting as well. It's actually pretty smooth. You just turn this knob and this 200-pound, I think that's bottom of travel. But yeah, this thing will move up and pivot. There's like Teflon bearings or something in there. And then when you like where you're at, then you just lock it down. Yeah, so I think I basically got my money back serendipitously through salvaging parts and repurposing the rest of this as an air press, because some of the things I need to do is heat stake plastic rivets. I also need to punch out plastic shapes with a die. So yeah, I'm definitely going to put this to good use. The other nice thing is this now air press has a pressure control as well as a speed control for the pneumatic ram. So anyway, and then finally this enclosure. I'm planning on repurposing this enclosure as an automation enclosure for interfacing to the robots with all the inputs and output connections and emergency stop buttons and air pressure and pneumatic controls. So this front panel I'm going to remove, but yeah, the enclosure itself is pretty nice. It's like a rim plastic enclosure. And here's some of the old guts from the 1980s electronics. Something in here died or failed, but I don't have time to figure out what it was, and it's not worth it anyway because the thing is so old that something else will fail, and then I still will not have any service support because it's over 30 years old. Yeah, so anyway, that is the end result of the eBay purchase. I've got some footage of the new Branson welder. That'll probably be another episode, but yeah, when I bought the new welder from Branson, they actually gave me a loaner device because it takes about a month for them to build it and ship it to me. So the video I'm going to show you next is me unloading the loaner device or ultrasonic welder. Yeah, and they'll lend it to me until the one I bought shows up for free, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so stay tuned and we will do more ultrasonic welding with the new welder and say goodnight to this old one. But yeah, it's pretty cool electronics in there, except for the exploding part. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.